Welcome to Nightly Scroll. I'm Hayley Caronia. It is a somber day in America. Of course, we remember the lives lost on September 11th, 2001. We also remember the life of Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated yesterday. Here is what we know now. According to the FBI press conference earlier this morning, Bo Mason, commissioner of the Utah Department of Public Safety, spoke as well. They alerted the public that the assassin is still at large. He arrived on Utah Valley University's campus at 11:52 a.m. yesterday. The FBI has been tracking his movements. He used stairwells to get onto the roof where he fired the shot that ultimately killed Charlie Kirk using a .30-06 rifle. And the FBI has released a photo of the person of interest, and they are asking for any and all information that the public can provide. So if we can put this up here, originally they said that the man looked like he was of college age. I would say he looks a little older than that. It's sure he could be college age, but I think we're looking at anyone, and this is me speaking. This is not the FBI speaking, and I'm not law enforcement, but he looks like he could be in his 40s even as well. But looks tall. He's a white man. And of course, this is just a person of interest. They don't even know if this is the guy, right? So they are asking for any and all information that the public can provide, and no tip is too small. The FBI has reiterated that they've received hundreds of tips, photos, videos. They are all helpful. They are also offering a reward of $100,000 for information that leads to the arrest of the individual or individuals who are responsible. So again, not ruling out that this was a lone gunman. This could have been a coordinated attack, and I certainly think that whether it was a lone gunman or a group, this was certainly a coordinated, planned attack. According to the FBI press conference, the shooter used a high-powered bolt-action rifle. Stephen Crowder broke the news earlier today that has since been confirmed by multiple outlets that the bullets were engraved with pro-trans and anti-fascist political messaging. Scott Bryson, Silver Lock contributor and former Secret Service agent, will be joining me in just a few minutes to break down what we know, what the investigation looks like, what they're looking for, what security measures need to be taken in the future to preserve the movement that Charlie Kirk started. And the Trump administration is standing firm with the Kirk family. Vice President J.D. Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance flew to Utah today to retrieve Kirk's body and casket. They will be flown to Air Force One, on Air Force One back to Arizona. President Trump today honoring the man behind this movement and made this announcement. Watch.
Before we begin, let me express the horror and grief so many Americans at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk have felt. Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly, yet I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd. Very, very big.
People in the chat are pointing out that I might have said Air Force One by accident. Air Force Two, of course. This is the Vice President Vance. So if I misspoke there, I apologize. But President Trump announcing that he will be awarding Charlie Kirk a posthumous Medal of Freedom. Well-deserved. Charlie Kirk was an example to all of us, regardless of political affiliation, to stand up for what you believe in and do so respectfully. Disagree, but know that the person you're debating was made in God's image. The left, or whatever entity was behind this savage killing, seems to think that by attempting to kill President Trump and by assassinating Charlie Kirk, that the political right We'll just admit that guns are the problem. We'll just give our firearms away. They think that we will abandon our strongly held beliefs about defending our constitutional rights. They don't understand the right at all. If anything, this has done the exact opposite. Charlie Kirk may not be here anymore, but his legacy will live on forever. His work will continue. It may be behind bulletproof glass, but it will not be stopped. I want to bring up a post that gave me some hope in this time, this really very dark time. But last week on the show, we were covering Graham Lynham. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's an Irish comedian. He was the one that was arrested by 5 armed police officers at Heathrow Airport in London for making anti-trans, that's what they're saying, posts on X. This is a turning point. I know we keep saying that because Charlie Kirk kind of coined that term and built a movement off of it. But this is a turning point. We have to stand up for our liberties. We have to stand up for the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all of our constitutional rights. They are under attack, not just here, but worldwide. So let us be the example that we cannot just lie down and let it happen. But Graham Lynham posted this. If we could pull up his X post, he said, "They just created 1 million Charlie Kirks." Doesn't that give you hope in this moment? Because that gave me hope. Because it's true. Charlie Kirk started and fostered a movement, a strong one at that, and now a fire has just been lit underneath it. Young people are literally on fire for God thanks to Charlie. He was such an incredible example for young men and women. He spoke openly about his faith. He defended his faith fiercely, wanted to be remembered for his faith. His faith was so strong that it has inspired people since his death to seek God. So I wanted to share some of these posts that I saw. This first person on X posted that I've never been a religious person because I don't know if God is real, but I'm becoming more religious every day because I know that evil is real and I want to be on the other side of it. In response to the horrific attack yesterday. Now, another person saying that they don't normally pray. This person, Sasha Stone on X, "It's funny, I don't pray, but I am praying, joining all of you to pray. I don't even know how." And you don't need to know how, but the fact that people are coming to the table, they have never prayed before, not religious, and they're seeing the evil take place in this world, and they're thinking, well, I've got to do something, and what I'm doing now is not enough. And it's a true testament to Charlie Kirk. Here's another video, if we could play this woman on TikTok. It says, "I'm not even kidding. Today has made me genuinely want to go to church, pray before bed, and be unafraid to vocalize my political thoughts and opinions." And I went through the comments on that video. And this woman was not alone. I just wanted to share some of this. I posted this on my Instagram stories, so if you want to go there and read them later, you can. But someone said, "I've never been a godly person. In fact, I never really believed in a higher power. After today, I just purchased my first Bible." Someone else in that same comment section said, "I haven't been to church in years, but going back on Sunday." Someone else said, "Been a lukewarm Christian for way too long and didn't pay attention to politics. That stopped last night." And someone else said, "Let this be the turning point as he wanted." And I agree with that last sentiment. Let this be the turning point that Charlie Kirk fought so hard for. Meanwhile, the mainstream media has a lot to learn. The reaction to this has made me so sick. Truly, I knew that they were bad. I knew that I hated the media, but this really solidified that fact for me that they are demonic. CNN posted, this was in reference to the news that Steven Crowder broke and also was then confirmed by many people in the mainstream media as well. But the fact that there were political messages, anti-faith fascist political messages, these Antifa type messages, pro-trans messages. CNN wrote this: rifle and ammo scrawled with cultural phrases found after Kirk killing. Cultural phrases. They're taking a step back from this. They want to remove themselves from this, and they're removing themselves from the truth. Remember that. There's the truth that was reported, and then there's what CNN is reporting it as. And they're taking a step back. Now, I covered this yesterday on the show, but MSNBC had such a shit show live coverage of the shooting. And this was partly before Charlie Kirk was found dead, or pronounced dead rather. So before and after, their breaking news coverage from start to finish was a disaster. It was a disgusting disaster. I played the videos yesterday on the show, so I'm not going to replay them. I'm sure you've all seen them, but Katie Tur saying that President Trump is surely going to use this for something. What happens next? Them saying they're very afraid of us and what we're going to do next. Then Matthew Dowd, a former now MSNBC contributor, saying that, well, Charlie Kirk deserved this because he said some inflammatory things. So if you say some inflammatory things, then you should just expect to die. Totally insane. He also, on this same broadcast, was saying that maybe the shot was fired it was a celebratory shot by a supporter. So the whole thing everyone involved deserves to be fired. But here is what MSNBC Public Relations posted on X. Statement from MSNBC President Rebecca Cutler: during our breaking news coverage of the shooting of Charlie Kirk, Matthew Dowd made comments that were inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable. We apologize for his statements, as has he. There is no place for political violence in America, political or otherwise. Firing the contributor who said that is not enough, in my opinion, because if you've never worked in the news media, if you've never worked at a corporation, let me take you behind the curtain. Everything is a top-down decision. There are people at the top, and I guarantee you, everyone at the top, they are watching these broadcasts from start to finish. They have multiple TVs on in their offices, sometimes with the sound off, sometimes with the sound on, but they are watching. They are reading the banners. They know who the guests are. They are very much involved in everything that happens on the broadcast. Not only that, there are executive producers, senior producers, other top-level producers, people who know better or should have known better, and they didn't. This is the kind of thing that was a collective problem that can't just be blamed. You can't just blame Matthew Dowd for saying stupid shit. And you can't just say, oh, I'm sorry that he said that. I'm sorry that we booked him. No. Because Katie Tur was the anchor sitting across the desk from him. And or not across the desk, but you know what I'm saying, on the same program. She did not stop it. Katie Tur did not have it within her to know that what he was saying was disgusting. She did not stop it. So she didn't know. She didn't know better. That's even being kind, saying that she didn't know better. I think this was gross incompetence. So Katie Tur needs to be fired, in my opinion. Every producer in that control room can get into Katie Tur's ear and say, put a stop to this. That's the executive producer's job or the senior producer's job. And it's any other lower level producer in that room can look to those people who are supposed to be in charge, these decision makers, and say, we have to do something about this. Everyone could have stepped up. They didn't. And maybe there were. Maybe people in that room were in Katie Tur's ear saying, put a stop to this, and she didn't. Maybe. But MSNBC needs to do more than just put out a statement, and they need to do more than just fire Matthew Dowd. They need to do an investigation as to whether or not the pool is poisoned at MSNBC. Because this was not just one person's failure. This was a large failure. Absolutely horrible. And this is all coming, by the way, as MSNBC wants to rebrand as MS Now. How about MS Never Again? Never again. And it's not just them, by the way. TMZ, This is one of the worst things I have ever seen. And it just goes to show that even though Harvey Levin was a professional in this breaking news moment, the people, the younger generations that were working in that same newsroom, they have a lot to learn. And they are rotten to their core because TMZ was doing their live broadcast. Harvey Levin read President Trump's Truth Social post that Charlie Kirk has died yesterday, and people in the background were laughing. Watch this.
If he's still on the loose because they want to find him. So I would think that that's one of the main reasons they're holding this news conference. So my guess is we're going to see an image of this guy possibly in the next 20 minutes. The news conference is scheduled for 3 o'clock in Utah time, which is 2 o'clock Pacific.
Do you hear that in the back?
5 o'clock Eastern. Janet, go.
They're cheering.
Go to have somebody look at the Fox. Trump just posted that Charlie Kirk is dead.
You saw that. Harvey Levin received the news. People in the newsroom received it before him. And then they delivered that news to him. That is what the laughter was. But they made a statement. Harvey Levin put out a video explaining this away. Watch.
We were live streaming all day during this tragedy when something happened in our office. As we were reporting the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there were some people in the back room away from our news desk here who were watching a car chase. And they were laughing, they were clapping, and you could hear it out here. And we want to make a couple of things clear. One is that I know these people, and they were not laughing, they were not reacting that way about Charlie Kirk's assassination. They were not. They would not work here if they did.
And that being said, we acknowledge that it was horrible timing, and for that we are sorry.
We apologize.
Don't you think it's interesting that they said if they did laugh, they wouldn't be working here?
Well, you could totally tell by Harvey's reaction in real time that he heard them laugh.
Yes.
And was processing, what do I do here? And I mean, it's that was really, 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 really pathetic.
Have you ever laughed at a police car chase video? I can't think
either
of
way,
one.
the surroundings of the newsroom, everyone knows. They know what is happening and what he's commenting on and severity and the reverence it demands. You know what I mean? The empathy, the sorrow. And so the fact that you can't, even if they were watching that, know the tone and know the room. But I don't believe that for a second.
There's no way. There's no way that you're working in a newsroom and this is a breaking news situation and you're watching a video of a car chase. No, you're not. You're working on the breaking news situation. There's absolutely no way. Like to Andy's point, this is a severe situation, a severe breaking news situation. So they knew the tone in the newsroom. They knew that they were live streaming too, and they couldn't help themselves but to cheer at the news. And do they think that we're stupid? That the exact moment that President Trump puts out a statement, the entire newsroom broke into laughter? And they expect us to believe that this was just a coincidence? That they were laughing and cheering at something else? I don't buy that. No one in the comments in the chat is buying it. Pure evil, just demonic. Yes, they think we're stupid. They have no empathy or respect. Fire them. Shut the place down. Get rid of it. TMZ is full of BS. TMZ is garbage. Pure evil. Lies, lies, lies. We're all on the same page. I don't believe that for a second. And the fact that he had to say, if they were that evil, like they wouldn't work here. All they could have done to save face was fire all of those people on the spot. Whether you were laughing at that or not, I think it's pretty easy to do an investigation and figure out what they were laughing at. Because you can go on TikTok, on Instagram, and go to your watch history. Show me what video was so funny. Or, better yet, they did a whole public video. Show us the car chase that was so hilarious.
That was my first thing. Show me the car chase. Where is it? What state is it in?
Yeah. And people were doing searches. It's not like it was a live car chase. People couldn't find videos of anything going viral at the moment. So maybe they had found a video of a car. I don't believe this, by the way, but maybe they had found an older video. No way. Not at the same time.
Here's the thing that's obvious that everybody knows. They're lying. So they put out a statement. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, and they don't care. And that's where it just is. It's an obligatory cover your bases, but we really know that this doesn't matter. We don't care. And that's what's sad, because this matters.
I think Harvey knows how severe it is, because he's a professional. He's been in the industry for decades. He knows what to do in a breaking news situation. I think in the moment he was very upset, and he almost didn't want to believe that the people working for him are that evil.
His body language says that. He was sort of.
But I'm upset that he even covered for them, because as a news professional, and yes, they cover pop culture news for the most part, but they dabble in all breaking news. And as someone who is a fixture in this industry and was a professional, this was not professional in my opinion. And it's not just the media that has been absolutely disgusting in response to this. Democrats yesterday would not stand, would not pray for Charlie Kirk. Watch this.
Shh. Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay?
These are your elected officials. These are the people that we voted into office. And Democrats who voted in, those Democrats are probably feeling pretty proud right now because they're disgusting. You know, was that Lauren Boebert and Anna Paulina Luna who wanted to do the prayer?
I believe Lauren brought up the prayer, and then Anna Paulina Luna was the louder voice sort of calling it out.
But when you heard the Democrats, their visceral reaction, no, to praying for someone who's actively dying, that's who the Democrat Party is. But we knew this because these are the same people that did not clap and did not stand for DJ Daniel. Remember, this was at the RNC, or was it the RNC or the joint session of Congress?
I believe it was the State of the Union address.
Yeah, the joint
right?
session. Yeah. And he's a 13-year-old with brain cancer. He's a survivor, and the Democrats would not stand for him. So, of course, they're not going to stand for Charlie Kirk. But just remember, these are the people who routinely show us who they were, and this is nothing new. We've known that they're disgusting human beings. Also, Senator Elizabeth Warren and many others were asked about the rhetoric and whether or not they will tone down the rhetoric on the left. But no, she blames President Trump. Watch this.
Oh, please. Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word.
So she's blaming President Trump. She's blaming memes and every word that he says. I don't know how this makes any sense. I don't think it's President Trump's fault that one of his close friends was killed by a crazed lunatic. I said this yesterday because I pointed out the many times that Democrats have casted Republicans out as this other. subhuman, just disgusting, garbage, deplorable. Hitler, Nazis, they use these words to describe us: racist, homophobic, xenophobic, transphobic. They have fostered a environment that allows for their most delusional supporters to hate us with everything in their body. Because if leftists believe everything that their leaders in their party say about us, yeah, I'm not surprised that they hate us. But when asked about toning down the rhetoric, they point the finger at President Trump. Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, also blamed Trump. By blaming Trump, they are skirting the blame. I would also like to point out that when political violence takes place on the other side of the aisle, we always call it out. We always do the right thing. We always call out violence and attacks on the left. My heart aches for the families of the Minnesota lawmakers who were killed, and for Governor Shapiro when his family was met with violence. And this isn't political violence, but when former President Joe Biden was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, my heart aches for him because he's a human being with a family who loves him. There are still many of us who see the humanity in the other side despite our differences. We demand free speech even for the people who hate us, all while our enemies try to strip it from us by censoring us on social media. So when people say this, oh, well, the same thing happens on the other side too. Yes, it does, but our response is much different. And Charlie Kirk said it best: you can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies. I am proud to be on the side of humanity. Unfortunately, others have been inspired by what happened yesterday. You know, I grew up on Long Island, and the middle school that I went to, they had a school board meeting yesterday that was cut short because they got a call saying that there was a copycat who wanted to do the same thing to Charlie Kirk, to the school board members of the school that I went to. So watch this video from that school board meeting last night.
Good evening, folks. We apologize for this. We have received this evening 2 back-to-back voicemails threatening gun violence to all of us here. The individual complained about who we all are up here on the dais and proceeded to praise the terrible actions that occurred in Utah today, and explained explicitly that he'd like to put us on the news as well. For everybody's safety, we are asking you to please exit the building. We are removing the public. This is a serious thing, and we've reported it to Nassau County Police and to our security, and we're taking this very seriously, this type of threat.
So someone in that community saw what happened to Charlie Kirk, probably saw a bunch of reaction on social media of people on the left celebrating this as a good thing. And of course, these people are they just follow. They're followers. They're not leaders. So they see that it's become cool on social media to kill people that you disagree with. And so they wanted the same thing to happen. They wanted what happened to Charlie Kirk to happen to school board members. They said, we want to see you guys on the news too. We have to remember this horrific killing may inspire more hate, but there are way more of us than there are of them. We are the majority. We have God on our side, and good will always prevail against evil. If you are watching on X or Facebook, you're going to have to come over to rumble.com/Hayley to watch the rest of the show. And I have former Secret Service agent Scott Bryson on deck. We are going to bring him in just a few moments to break down all of the details that we know and really where we go from here as a conservative movement. How do we stay safe? Because we're going to pick up the microphone. We are going to carry the torch for Charlie Kirk. So how do we do that without ending up the same way? How do we do that and stay alive so that we can keep Charlie Kirk's movement alive? So we are going to get into that in just a few moments. Like I said, if you're watching on X or Facebook, please join me on Rumble for the rest of the show. I want to take a quick break before we bring Scott in to tell you about the sponsors for tonight's show. First up, Genucel. You've heard me tell you about the transformative results that people see after using Genucel. This is a story from Sandra. She uses Genucel. She lives in Arlington, Virginia. She was using Genucel products after a few days. She said, I'm looking pretty young. Her husband noticed. He said, whatever you're doing is working. He didn't even know that she had bought Genucel products, but she said that they're easy to use. They work well on her sensitive skin. She had tried many expensive products, and this one was working for her. So now it is your turn to see results like Sandra and myself during Genucel's end of season summer sale. There's only a few days left to get Genucel's complete skincare package at 70% off. It includes their dark spot corrector, plus the classic Genucel bags and puffiness treatment and immediate effects for results in just minutes. You can get the best skincare in the world for yourself completely risk-free. Go to Genucel.com/scroll today and start looking years, even decades younger tomorrow. All orders are upgraded to free shipping. See results on day one. You'll get compliments everywhere you go, guaranteed, or your money back. That is Genucel.com/scroll, Genucel.com/scroll. I also want to tell you about our friends at Blackout. I don't start the day without Blackout. You shouldn't either. And their coffee pods are a total game changer. These are not your average grocery store pods. Blackout pods are packed with fresh roasted, bold coffee made right here in America, made right here in Florida. And they work with those single serve pod brewers. So it is fast, it is easy, and it is delicious coffee. They've got amazing flavors. They've just got regular coffee. So if you just like your coffee black, nothing else in it, the roast is so good. It is so bold and strong. And if you want a little flavor, they have something for you too. They've got a bunch of different flavors. I love the cinnamon one personally. None of that bitter, stale junk. You just pop in one of their coffee pods and you will have a smooth cup of coffee in just seconds. So if you're racing out the door, juggling back-to-back calls, this is your new morning lifesaver or afternoon lifesaver or evening lifesaver if you're like me and you've got to get through a show. So the best part is they ship nationwide. No matter where you live, you can have Florida fresh coffee at your door in just days. Head to blackoutcoffee.com/scroll. Well, without further ado, I want to bring in former Secret Service agent, also the host of the Beyond the Service podcast, Scott Bryson, to break down everything that we know. Scott, thank you for being here. Unfortunately, we've brought you in on such horrible circumstances. We had last time that we had you on, it was the shooting in Minnesota at the Catholic school. Now we're seeing just a larger-than-life figure, one of our own, a conservative icon, Charlie Kirk, gone way too soon, dead at 31 years old, leaving behind a wife, 2 young children. Now, the shooter is still at large. What are the agents looking for? If I want to see this from a law enforcement standpoint, I know that in the presser earlier today, they were explaining that they're canvassing the area, the woods that they found the firearm in. They are going to the houses. They're trying to get everyone's Ring camera footage to just find everything. What are they looking for?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me as usual. And I just wanted to give my condolences to Charlie's wife and his babies who don't know what's going on yet. And it's just absolutely pitiful, the world that we live in. I know a lot of people were praying very hard for Charlie and his family yesterday. And I hate that he's gone from us, but he received his reward in full yesterday, and we're the ones that suffer. But to your question, what they're going to do, they're going to start in the center, kind of at the nucleus, and they're going to work their way out. Obviously, they're going to talk to eyewitnesses. We saw a couple of people yesterday that the mainstream news media interviewed that I thought was breaking news, and it was like, well, I heard. Well, that's hearing something, not seeing something. So some of those eyewitnesses weren't great. I'm sure they got some really good information. Of course, every single person there had some type of cell phone camera going. So there's tons and tons of cell phone footage available. The CCTV is extremely important. Talking to people on witnesses, live bodies, eyewitnesses there, that's crucial. They're going to kind of reverse engineer it. They're going to start with what they know, and then they're going to work from there. And of course, I'm sure you've watched the coverage all day today, where the FBI, the special agent in charge of the office there in Salt Lake City, was talking, and the other gentleman, the Department of
Public Safety.
thank you, public safety, that he was talking, and they're doing a very thorough job. They're gonna work backwards, and they're going to canvass the area. You just mentioned that. That was a word that I was going to bring up. That's what police say all the time. We're going to canvass the area. Which, guess what? It if the sources that if the information we have is correct, they found the weapon or a weapon. They're going to pull all the DNA off of that.
Right.
People think in terms of like fingerprints and things like that, but your skin, it loses, it leaves the body throughout the day. Hair samples, all
Sweat.
types of DNA. Yep, sweat.
Yeah.
All kinds of body fluids and things like that. They're going to look for the shoe imprints. I heard that they found a shoe imprint. Okay, so they're going to really get in the weeds on, trust me, the technology that's out there that the good guys have is second to none. And they're going to know what kind of shoe that is. They probably already know what kind of shoe it is by now, would be my
Yeah.
best guess. And things like that.
I always like to remember to give law enforcement grace, because I think a lot of us, we watch these Criminal Minds episodes or NCIS or whatever it is, and they solve the crime in 20 minutes minus commercial breaks, right? And I think a lot of us, especially because so many people care so deeply about Charlie, we want an answer now, and we want justice now. And I certainly feel that way. I know a lot of other people feel that way. And like, how long does something like this normally take? I know this is a manhunt situation. Obviously, this is dire situation. There are boots on the ground, because we don't know if this man has plans for someone else, right? I mean, yes, he wanted to take out Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a target. We don't know if that's his only target, and we don't know where he is. So how far could he have gotten in more than 24 hours? If law enforcement have the firearm, they're swabbing the firearm for any DNA, they have the shoe. I mean, when do we think we might get somewhere?
Well, that's a really good question. And obviously, we all want to know. I want to know. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years. I did the Secret Service thing for 25, and I understand wanting to know, because I'm human at the end of the day, too. But it is a need to know basis. And I believe that they're throwing the kitchen sink at this thing
Yeah.
with the brevity of the situation. Even if it was just a random person, like if it was just me or just Joe Blow, they're going to do a thorough investigation. The cops always do a good job. They get a
Yeah.
bad rap. They're always doing good work. But with the situation at hand and the national security implications and the political overtones, I mean, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at this thing. And I think that we just have to be patient. We live in a culture and an age where, if your phone doesn't give you information in 2 seconds, you get aggravated and you go to the next TikTok. We just have to pump the brakes. We have to relax. We have to trust the professionals. That's why they do this. Okay. It's called law and order for a reason. I love what Dan Bongino used to say all the time. And I think he had a 72-hour rule. I forget what his number was, but he let the situation play out, because
Yep.
you don't want to be first. You want to be accurate, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. And, what we know about this person of interest right now is that he used certain stairwells. He knew how to get onto the roof. So obviously this is someone who'd been to the campus before, either an insider or someone who had been planning this for a while and had access to this university. So do you think that this is one or the other? A member of the university community, maybe it's just someone in the community, or do you think this is someone who is from the outside and kind of like came in here and tried to figure out things fast? I mean, to me, this seemed like it was very well planned.
Yeah, definitely. I think a couple things. I have a thought rattle around in my brain that I'm not willing to share just yet, because I don't want to speculate, and that just doesn't do anybody any good. But I will say this to your question. This individual has been radicalized. Words matter. The left loves to talk about, oh, the rhetoric from the right. Well, we're all human. We all say things we shouldn't say from time to time, but it's pretty much a one-way street. Let's don't get it twisted. They're very manipulative, and they blame us for all the things that they do. So in my best estimation, this young man, whether he's from there or from another town, is probably like an Antifa mindset type of guy. And again, I'm speculating. I don't know that to be true, so I don't want people to put words in my mouth. But I feel like he's definitely probably a loner, or some type of very sad person who's probably could possibly have mental health issues. We don't know about that. I mean, he might not have anything. He might be as cognitive as I am, but I will say this about him. He's full of evil,
Yeah.
and this world is under spiritual attack. And I've said that the last time I was on here, and that's the drum I'm going to beat because I believe that to my core. I believe that what we're witnessing right now is spiritual warfare that's manifesting itself in individuals who've opened themselves up to the demonic world. That's what I believe.
I agree with you. With this timeline now, it's been more than 24 hours. Is it likely that he's staying closer to the area, or is it possible that he got on a plane somewhere? Is with the FBI, they had a few other different suspects or people of interest that they were kind of focusing in on yesterday. During that time when they were questioning someone else, is it possible that he could have gotten on a plane and he's in another state or another country?
I mean, I think anything's possible, but I think that's also unlikely. I want to use Eric Rudolph. I want to use Eric Rudolph for an example for just a second, because back in when he for your audience that may not know, he was the bomber at the Olympics down in Atlanta in 1996, Eric Rudolph. And I can remember, I was a young Secret Service agent and I was a full investigative mode. I thought I was the smartest thing walking around. And I really was convinced that he was out west at a compound in Montana or Wyoming or something. And he was found in the little town in Western North Carolina, not very far away from Atlanta. So it's really hard to say. I know Candace Owens was tracking a flight yesterday and some different things like that.
Right.
But here's the thing. This is kind of a double-edged sword. So I think he's probably had some help, which is helping him right now, which is bad for us. But guess what? People like to talk. And unless you're going to do something as a lone wolf and not talk, that's the only way you don't get caught. But people can't control themselves. They want the notoriety. Eventually, someone's going to snitch on them for the money, or they're going to get scared. The cops are going to knock on the right door. And one of the other things I wanted to touch on really quickly, because you asked me this at the beginning and I failed to say this, time is of the essence. You know, most homicides are solved within the first 48 hours. Now, not all. Definitely not all. There are cold cases that get solved years later, and there are cases that get solved in a week or two. But the further we get away from the time of death or the act of violence, that's not going in our favor. So that's why I believe that the FBI and all law enforcement are doing, it's all hands on deck. I'm sure those guys worked through the night last night. They're not going to stop. Right. This guy's time, whether it's a lone wolf or a couple of people, their days are numbered.
You know, he took the gun with him and dropped it in the woods, or do they know? Sorry if I'm getting this wrong. Did they know for sure that the gun that they have is the weapon?
Not to my knowledge. Now, they did find a weapon. I believe it was a Mauser 30-06, okay, wrapped in a towel, which is sort of weird. I would think that you would just throw the gun in the woods. It would blend in, in the woods better than a towel. Maybe he was trying to wipe the fingerprints off. Who knows? But that's the suspected weapon. So I don't, I can't confirm that.
Because I was wondering, if someone wanted to drop a weapon in the woods, is this someone who is panicking, or is this someone who purposely left a weapon? Is it kind of like a decoy to throw law enforcement off? That I sort of just, I don't know. I'm trying to get into the head of a criminal, and I'm hoping you can help me.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. That makes a lot of sense. You think back, and I wasn't on the earth during the John F. Kennedy assassination days either, but I've read a history and I know a little bit about history. So you think about, Oswald and Jack Ruby, and look at the shiny thing over here while the real thing is going on over here. So that's also playing in the background in my mind. So I'm a little concerned about what might really be going on, which I am not prepared to talk about yet.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever have the courage to do that. But what I really hope, my hope is that it is what we think it is. It's a 20-something-year-old disgruntled individual who's mad at the world, who may or may not have, mental health issues, but definitely hates Trump, hates the right, hates freedom, probably hates God. Just an evil person who's twisted. So I would think that he's probably, whoever did this, probably studied Butler, Pennsylvania, and did some learning from that, because like you talked a minute ago before I came on about the copycat stuff already happening in your own hometown in Long Island, right? With at least the threats of that. So this guy probably, if I had to guess, he probably said, okay, well, what went wrong in Butler? And then again, don't know if this is true, but if I would have done it, I would have put the gun up there a day or two in advance, and then because you're not going to blend in a crowd with a rifle, you
Right.
know?
Well, so that is, I wanted to ask you about the similarities between yesterday and Butler, Pennsylvania, because I think there are a lot. It's this open space. But Andy had a question for you about whether or not the shooter brought the gun in with him, or if because he had access to the stairwells, if the gun was already up there. Andy, if you want to reiterate the question or
Yeah, Scott,
expand on that.
You know, like we were hearing from the FBI in their report this morning in their briefing that the shooter was caught on CCTV, I believe, in and throughout the building, escalating and going up. You know, we talked about his ingress and his egress. You know, seemed pretty clean. You know, to get through there. But my question was that I think could lead to some more questions: is he going up the steps and throughout the building with the weapon in his hand? And when they see him leaving, is he leaving with the weapon in his hand? Because that would sort of indicate that it was up there before him, and then it got in the woods somehow without him. You know what I'm saying?
Or someone else put a weapon in the woods and it wasn't the weapon.
Yeah. No, those are all really good thoughts, and I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, what I think happened, again, be very careful what I say here because this is an ongoing investigation. But what I think probably happened, you have to realize too that every CCTV it's different. Like some things are on a loop, some things record for a day or two or a week and then deleted. A lot of the stuff's on a loop, and after 24 hours, it kind of goes away. So he could, in theory, have known, okay, well, if I'm going to walk in on game day, everybody's senses are security is going to be up a little bit. I could do this a day or two in advance, and because who's going to look at CCTV in a stairwell 2 days before? Like maybe if something happens, you're going to go pull the CCTV on game day, right? But if you just if he's just, because I saw one picture where he was walking up the stairs, the alleged guy was walking up the stairs, and you could see the shoulder of another kid walking down. So he probably, if I had to guess, did his homework and was like, hey, I'm going to do this a couple of days in advance so that on game day I can blend in better, because you're not going to walk around with a rifle and blend in.
Right.
And then the other thing that Hayley asked a second ago was, you know, I get back to the Mike Tyson thing. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, guess what? He pulled it off. And then he probably had the old crap factor. Like, not only did I shoot, but I hit. Now I got to get out of here. So there's a good chance that he did panic. That's what I'm hoping for.
Do you think, and you know, I'm trying to stay respectful and I don't want to get conspiratorial, but you see a lot of stuff on social media and people are saying that there's no way that anyone with any basic knowledge of firearms could pull this off. Which then a lot of other people are saying, sure they can, right? So do you think that this is someone that has training? Is it professional? Or is this just a guy with a gun who got very lucky, unfortunately? Lucky in a bad way, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. This gets back to the whole Butler, Pennsylvania thing, you know, and that really hit home to me as a retired Secret Service agent. I had worked that job for 25 years, and I know exactly the painstaking effort that goes into that. But it gets back to the old adage, the bad guys only got to get it right one time. You have to get it right 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000. And sometimes, you know, Murphy is an SOB, you know, what can go wrong will. And it's very frustrating because, you know, in my best estimation, my knee-jerk reaction was, okay, I pretty much felt like it was a sniper right off the bat based on the noise and you know, the visual stuff that we saw and the impact and all that. I thought immediately, well, this is a professional, which if it was a professional, then we have a whole nother can of worms that we have to worry about, which I don't even feel comfortable saying much about. If you're picking up what I'm laying down. And then the other thing is, that's really not a very far shot. And I know I'm saying that sort of tongue in cheek because the profession that I had, and I was not a sniper. I'm not Chris Kyle or anything like that, but I've been around a lot of guns, and a 200-yard shot, 130-yard shot, it's just not that far, especially if he had an optic on it, which we don't even know. They said they found a Mauser 30-06 in the woods. Did it have a scope or was it iron sights? And I know this is kind of immaterial because what happened. But to get shot right there, I don't think that's where he was aiming. My best guess was he was aiming center mass, either the chest or the head, and he was a bad shot who got lucky. That's what I think.
Or because people are also saying, John Solomon was reporting that Charlie Kirk was wearing a bulletproof vest, and I haven't seen anyone confirm that. I don't know if he was 100% wearing one, but people are speculating, and John Solomon was reporting that yesterday, that he was wearing a bulletproof vest and it could have potentially shot or hit the bulletproof vest and then ricocheted. Other people online were saying that they thought that the neck wound that we saw was an exit wound. What do you think happened?
Yeah, I was told that yesterday too, so I started looking at. I didn't rewatch the horrific act again and again, but I did zoom in on Charlie's shirt. God love him. He was wearing the shirt that said freedom. I mean, I just personified the guy. It just really, the last 24 hours has just really been hard for all of us. It just really sucks. But I looked at his chest to see if he was wearing body armor, and he could have been wearing some type of body armor like a police officer wears. If he was, I don't think that he was, but if he was, that's rated differently, and that's pretty much rated for handgun only. And like Andy and I were talking earlier, even as a police officer, if you're wearing that body armor, a high-powered rifle is just it's not even gonna slow it up. It's just gonna go right through it. So he would have needed to be wearing like a plate, like a tactical guy would wear, like a Navy SEAL would wear with a plate, so it would stop a 7.62 round or something like that. I think the more logical explanation could possibly be it could have been an entry wound over here, and that could have been the exit wound perhaps. Again, I thought this was definitely like, oh my gosh, this is a professional. We got problems. But the more I have looked at things and think about it, I just think it was a wingnut who, like Trump, got super, super lucky. And this is what it looks like when you're close, but you get it right, and it's bad.
Yeah, I do agree with you that whoever did this is evil. We can obviously, that's, of course, we know that. The person who did this has evil in their heart that is unfathomable. But, we saw reporting earlier today from Steven Crowder that there were messages engraved on the bullet that were pro-trans, anti-fascist type political messages, very similar to the shooter in Minnesota. And don't get me wrong, I think the left is very violent. But as of right now, we don't know who is behind this or what is behind this. It could be someone on the left, but it could be someone who just wants to keep us divided. It could be someone from the inside, someone from our government, one of our adversaries that knows that having the bullet engraved with some kind of political messaging will cause us to destabilize and turn on each other. I think that someone or something wants us to go to war with ourselves because we will be an easier target. What say you?
Oh, no, I think you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. You said it a lot more eloquently than I would have said it. But yeah, I worry about the deep state 1000%, whatever that looks like. And guess what, people? It's not just the United States of America. It's when we say the deep state, it's global. It's a problem. The globalists want a one world order and all this other trash. So yes, that's very plausible. That is not outside the realm of possibility, unfortunately. I hope it proves to not be that, because it could very easily be a patsy type thing. Like if your audience isn't familiar with the JFK assassination, look up Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby and how all that went down. They got a dead man can't talk. So. Right. First things first, let's get the guy who did it, who we believe, and then hopefully it turns out to be a nut job 20-something-year-old kid that has been radicalized. But your thoughts are very in tune with what I've been worried about, and I don't think that's crazy at all, unfortunately.
Andy has another question for you.
Hey Scott, tell me what you think the future is for these type of on-campus events. It breaks my heart that you don't think that kids could flow the campus, have a great time, and when I was in college, you'd go into the courtyard and there would be all kinds of things from, the sororities and fraternities having their recruitment days, and it's just full of energy and life, and you'd have guest speakers and things come in, and that's just a part of the thought of college. But it seems anymore with stuff like this, how could you, what are we looking at to mitigate something like this? At the end of the day, I know it's a 200-yard shot with a 30-06, and I don't really know what you can do about that kind of evil. But what are we looking at here? Are we just going to have somebody stand in the Pope Mobile? What do you think is going to happen with the future of these events on campus?
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs that we have to think about this type of stuff, but we do. The county that I live in has a school resource officer at every school, to include preschools and elementary schools. Let that sink in for a minute. That's ridiculous. But hey, it's what we live in now. So why would college campuses be any different? I think you bring up a good point. Line of sight's a major issue. Okay. Do we want to have everything indoors? No, I love being outside. I can't stand being inside. I spend as much time outside as I can. But when you go outside, you have a whole nother, you have line of sight issues. You have 360 degrees to worry about. You have to have different access points. You have to be able to bottleneck the people. You have to have ingress and egress routes for the protectee, or in this case, the speaker, the press, the public. So with Secret Service, you've got 3 different entry points. But that's fine because you have it cordoned off and bike rack and all the things, right, like that. But see, the problem with this is Charlie Kirk is a public figure, but he doesn't, rate protection from the State Department or the Secret Service. So, it's whatever. I don't know how that works. I don't know if his company paid for the private security or police or whatever. I think there were police there. They need to have an EMS crew there, I would think, not only for the person speaking, but what about in situations where people pass out and get dehydrated and just things like that? You could have the gamut runs wide open, right? From a lady fainting in the crowd, a pregnant woman, someone gets shot, someone breaks an ankle. You have to have EMS there. But I think, to your point, Andy, I think the big takeaway is you're going to have to do magnetometers. Good gracious, I went to a high school football game last Friday night. My wife couldn't even take her bag. And I'm like, what? She had a little wristlet with her cell phone in. They let that in, but her pocketbook, she knew she couldn't even take her pocketbook in. And we live out in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina. It's the world that we live in. So we're either going to have to do it right or not do it at all. And I think the thing is, we're going to have to do it right.
Yeah, I don't know why I was calling them metal detectors. Is that not the right term?
No, it is magnetometers. It's just the fancy word for metal detectors. So,
I was thinking about that too. And then I was thinking, okay, so the conservative movement is not over, right? We're not done doing speaking engagements at colleges or campaign rallies. This is not deterring us. So when we move forward, does it have to be inside where it's like a concert and everyone's bag is checked and you can't get in without being checked? Maybe we can't do things outside anymore, or if they're outside, there needs to be these things that are walled off where, it's kind of like a maze and it's one way out, one way in. But then I was thinking about metal detectors, and they had those at the Trump campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the guy got in. So it's so hard to think, what could we have done better, or what can we do in the future? Because I feel like the threat is always there. So what would be your advice to not only conservative speakers, but people on the left, because the world is violent, right? So anyone, a public figure who is speaking, who might be attracting some kind of a protest, what would be your advice to keep them safe? And then also, if you're a spectator, what would be your advice to stay safe?
Yeah, that's good. I think if you're the event coordinator or the planner or the board of trustees or whatever the case is, whoever's holding the purse strings, you have to build this into your budget. It comes down to money and manpower. And unfortunately, just like with the CEO up in New York who got shot last December, he had protection, but he had run out real quick to get a coffee or whatever before, and he probably told his guy, just sleep in, I'll see you at the meeting or whatever. You have to take this stuff seriously, and it's unfortunate, but you do. And you have to ask yourself, what's your appetite for risk? that's what we talk about in my world. What's your appetite for risk? Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it takes manpower and it takes money. And so you're going to have to bolster. The thought of not being able to have an event outside just makes my skin crawl. I'm going to an event next weekend, or actually this weekend, called Faith Fest. It's an outdoor Christian music festival, and Greg Laurie's going to be preaching, and I'm excited. I can't wait to go. But trust me, they're not playing any games. Franklin Graham is coming, and he's got former Secret Service agents as his detail, as his detail leader, as his limo driver. A retired highway patrolman is in charge of the security plan, and trust me, the footprint's big. And so I think that's the answer to the first part of your question. And then moving forward, but the other part of your question is, if you're a spectator and you want to go, you have to know the difference between cover and concealment. And these are sort of police terms, but concealment is basically what Charlie was in yesterday, the little tent. Now, the guy had a line of sight on him, but from people behind him couldn't see because there was a drape, so it could be concealment is like a bush or a tree or grass or things like that. Cover would be a rock, like a massive rock, or behind a brick wall or brick pillar, things like that. So when you're at these events, you don't have to be up front, because guess what? If you're up front and something bad happens, you're going to get smushed up against the bike rack. It's going to be a stampede. So yes, I like to see and hear things too, but I always get there a little early, and I try to find what I call high ground, whether it's a little knoll or it could be a picnic table, it could be a wall, and I get up there and I try to survey the area, and I'm like, okay, if this, then that. You have to war game it.
Yeah.
People don't do that. We have to stay in condition yellow. You guys know I love to talk about that. It's just a low level of alert readiness. We're not walking around paranoid, but you can't also walk around in condition white, which is just blind oblivious. You can't be oblivious. You have to think about these things, because failing to plan is planning to fail. And I know that's old cliche statement, but it's the truth. I'm a football coach as well, and I believe in the KISS principle. Keep it simple. Yep. Keep it simple, but you have to have a plan, because I do want to say this before I go. Hope in Jesus Christ is a real thing, but hope by itself in the real world is not a plan. So just for your listeners, understand, hoping for the best is not going to cut it.
Yeah, it's great advice. Keep your head on a swivel, always looking for an escape plan. I mean, I never really think about how I'm going to leave once I'm in somewhere. I mean, I am going to think very differently about my surroundings anytime I'm in a big public setting. So thank you so much for your insight, Scott, host of Beyond the Service podcast and Silverlock contributor. We really appreciate your insight always.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, a lot of Americans are hurting today for the lives lost 24 years ago in the worst terror attack on American soil in history. We are still reeling from that. Families have empty chairs at their dinner tables. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters who woke up and went to work. They went to school. They were in the area. They never came home. Other empty seats belong to first responders, firefighters, law enforcement officers who spent weeks searching for bodies in the rubble of the Twin Towers. Empty seats also belong to the sons and daughters who went to fight the war on terror. Brave men and women who will also never return home. And there are heroes still alive today that suffer every day from respiratory illnesses and cancers because of their service at Ground Zero. When these tragedies take place, it leaves a hole in our hearts, but we have to be stronger than the evil that wants to divide us. This is a battle between good and evil, but when we see evil take place, whether it's 9/11 or the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we as Christians know there is no evil without good. Goodness is alive in all of us when we seek God, and that is what Charlie would have wanted. So I want to leave everyone with that. Rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace to all the souls we lost 24 years ago. And I will see you right back here tomorrow.